I'm Chris, you're watching FRAG-MENTAL. If you're somebody who doesn't like clones, doesn't agree with them, then this video isn't going to be for you, so you might as well. If you're interested in clones and you want to hear what my top 5 recommendations for autumn are, stay tuned to FM. If you're still here and you're a clone hater, why? But if you're going to stick around and watch this video, absolutely fine by me. If you're thinking of leaving some comments, I've heard all the ranty comments about clone companies before, so I'll just ignore those comments, and if they get too nasty, they'll be deleted. Any jokes about my mum will not be tolerated. Mum jokes are just not fair game. You've been warned. Right, I'm going to go George, the fragrance apprentice, here on you for a minute, and let's get real. I'm going to get real with you. I want to talk to you about how I feel about clones personally. Honestly, I'm on the fence about them. I've met face to face with some of the perfumers, the faces behind the companies and the brands that these clone companies are essentially copying. So I understand that it feels like it isn't right to steal someone else's hard work, okay? I get that. On the other side of things, if it weren't for copies, if it weren't for clones, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. Clones were my gateway into going in deep into the fragrance world, particularly getting into niche. And I think clones are representative of that for a lot of people. A lot of people discover certain scents through clones, and they act as a gateway, and then they get more into niche. And in my experience, when someone gets into niche fragrances, they kind of go in pretty hard. I know I did. And the thing is, I've spent hundreds and hundreds of pounds on independent and niche fragrances that I wouldn't have spent had I not had this clone gateway to get into it. So in a way, it's brought me into the industry, and I've put money into the industry because of clones, okay? So that's just me being honest. I know everyone's story isn't like that, but that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm doing this video today. All right, so if you've stuck with me through that, I'm going to talk to you about 5 clone fragrances that I love wearing, that I think are great copies of the originals for autumn. The first one I'm going to talk about is one of my favourite gourmands. I've recently mentioned this in a video of niche fragrance recommendations for autumn that I brought back from Essence. This is like smelling a bakery. It's like smelling the desserts in a bakery. It's like smelling pastries, sweet, sugary things. This is HOS N.001, and similarities to Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. It's got some oud in it, it's got some spices, it's got loads of tonka in it. It's just a very smooth, dreamy, sweet fragrance. The clone of this one is, I actually had the clone before I had this one, and it is from Dua Fragrances, and Dua's version of this one is called Singularity. So I'd been wearing Singularity for a while before I got a decant of HOS N.001, so I didn't really know how close it was, but I knew I absolutely loved wearing this one. When I got a decant, I realised it is actually really, really close. I'd say, you know, people like to know percentages. It's maybe 90–95%, so it is close. I think the only difference really is maybe in the first kind of 20 minutes. This one, the Dua, just smells slightly different. Maybe it doesn't smell quite as high quality in the very initial opening, but in the air, there's not really any difference with it at all. It is a great copy. So if you're struggling to find, particularly in the UK, I know HOS N.001 is difficult to get hold of. So if you're struggling to find it and you can't find decants or samples from anywhere, then the Dua option here is a good alternative. I'm not sure of any other clone houses that do a copy of this one. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I've just not discovered them. But this is a beauty. Look at the colour of the juice in the Dua here. It's a really dark juice, which is representative of what to me is quite a high quality fragrance. As you find with a lot of these clones, this one is maybe a bit stronger than the original, so I get just marginally better performance out of the Dua because I think it's made to a higher concentration than the original. Both absolutely quality fragrances. The House of Sillage goes for around about £250, so it is definitely on the pricey side, and Dua's Singularity goes for about $60, and they will ship to the UK. I don't think they're shipping from within the UK at the moment. I know for a lot of people who enjoy colognes, it's simply because niche fragrances are just too pricey. Many of you out there aren't going to want to drop £200 on a fragrance. Some people look at me like I'm absolutely crazy when I tell them the price of some of these fragrances. So it's just, you know, simply people can't afford them. Maybe one day they will be able to afford them, and having this gateway cologne into it will maybe then lead them to purchase the original further down the line. That's the first one. On to the next. The next fragrance needs no introduction. It's probably the most cloned fragrance of all time, and the company I'm going to talk about is probably the company that has done the most iterations of this scent. I'm talking about the king, and it is Creed Aventus. So this bottle is 2016, so the comparisons I make are against a 2016 bottle, which seems to me to be a nice balance of everything in there, of the fruitiness, or there's a slight smoky birchiness, not as much as some of the earlier batches, but I find it to be a really nice balanced batch. The company, of course, that have done the most cloning of Creed Aventus is Parfums Vintage, okay? Particularly with their pineapple vintage line. Some of them have been cloned to represent certain different batches of Aventus. I think that's why there has been so many, because there's, you know, been a different iteration of a Parfums Vintage, pineapple vintage, to represent the different batches. Some more smoky, some more fruity, and so on. Now this one does something different. I think it's the first time Parfums Vintage went their own way with it and took Aventus in a slightly different direction. This is Vanilla Intense. So you have that Aventus DNA that just works so well. Vanilla is a note in Aventus, so what Parfums Vintage have done is boosted that vanilla. They've pushed the vanilla note just to the forefront a little bit more, so you get a bit of extra sweetness, you get a bit of extra creaminess, just a slightly gourmandish, indulgent quality that you usually get with vanilla. I find that the vanilla just really helps with the performance of this one. Sometimes Aventus can dry down and it just becomes a bit of a faint kind of woody dry down, but the vanilla stays with this one all the way through the life, creates this nice kind of sweet woody dry down. And strangely, I think probably because the vanilla used in here, in the far dry down, I've mentioned this in a review I did of this, it kind of becomes reminiscent as a skin scent of Oud Wood as a skin scent from Tom Ford, which is another one that I love, so double bonus for me. So I like the extra creamy, sweet element to it. It's not massively different, it's just subtly different, but if you think you like the vanilla aspect of Aventus, then Vanilla Intense, I know it's certainly been a popular one. I have tried the most popular selling Parfums Vintage Aventus copy, which is Emperor Extrait, I believe. That's very good. That is a beast. I mean, that lasts and lasts. Personally, I love a gourmand, and I like the nice little vanilla twist in this one. A house for me that works really well in the autumn is Nasomatto. I love their fragrances. They're all quite rich and bold and make a statement. So I think that is great for the temperatures that we're getting this time of year. So this one is a boozy beauty, I call it. It is the gorgeous, beautiful, boozy Baraonda. This is probably the most realistic whiskey note I've ever smelt in a fragrance. It's so smooth and creamy and dreamy, and great performance off this one as well. Brilliant bottle. Love the Nasomatto bottles. This is a cork to represent the whiskey in here. So I love Baraonda. Now, a company that I think does Nasomatto copies really well is Alexandria Fragrances. In fact, consistently across the board, I think Alexandria is maybe the company that I'm most impressed with in terms of the consistency of quality. I haven't smelt one of their fragrances that I haven't really been very impressed with the quality. They're doing some good stuff. So their version of Baraonda is called The Godfather, and I own this before I own this. I bought this because of this. So I did have this one and wear and enjoy this one first. Now I just can't choose which one to wear. So Alexandria's Godfather, it's just as smooth. It's beautiful. Sometimes with clones they can be a little bit less smooth in the opening, a bit more kind of chemically sometimes, but not so with this one. The interesting thing here is on skin, this goes a little deeper with the booze it's just got an extra little depth to it over this one, and I think because of that this one has a better performance than the Nasomatto. So it's a great copy. I love wearing this one. Let me see if I can remember the prices of these. So for the Nasomatto for Baraonda, you're looking at, it's usually around 125 for 30 ml. And I think that currently on the UK Alexandria site they're sold out of the Godfather, but on the US site I believe it's about $47 for the same for 30 ml. So obviously much cheaper, and you know, in this case I feel like you're getting as good quality, if not a bit better. Kind of feel a bit weird saying that, but sometimes it's true. Sometimes they use a stronger concentration. Don't know how they do it and offer it at you know, such cheap prices, but they do. So Baraonda is beautiful for autumn, and the Godfather from Alexandria is a really nice interpretation of it. We're going to stick with the same two houses on this one. Nasomatto have a fragrance called Pardon, and it is probably my favourite from the house. I adore it. The main notes that you get from it is oud and chocolate, and this is bold, it's powerful, it packs a punch, it makes a statement, has the kind of notes that really cut through the slightly cooler temperatures, but if it is a slightly warmer autumn day, much like it is today, it still works. Probably a bit strong for really hot temperatures in the summer, so this is definitely an autumn and winter fragrance for me. So yeah, this is my favourite from Nasomatto. Before I bought this one, and I did buy this one, well, I say full retail, I got a discount code, I think on Notino, so I made the purchase of this one, but I was wearing for a while. Again, the clone led me to the purchase of this one. So it's Alexandria again, because I just think across the board their fragrances are great, and their interpretations of Nasomatto are fantastic. Theirs is called No Apologies. Again, it's a little bit stronger than the Nasomatto. I think the Nasomatto has maybe a little more finesse, a little more refinement and subtlety if I'm getting picky, and perhaps the concentration of the Alexandria is slightly higher, which is why it comes off as a little stronger. But in the air, you know, there's really not a lot of difference, and most people, when you're out and about, most people aren't into niche fragrances, and even if you tell them it's the original Nasomatto, they're still not going to know what that one is. So you could tell them it's either one, and they wouldn't probably know what it was, but they would know that you smell great. Prices of this again, so you're looking at about 125 for the Nasomatto. I think I got it for about 100 with a promo code a while ago, so that code won't still be there. And also the Alexandria No Apologies, you're looking around £33 on the UK website for this one, and that is for the equivalent 30 ml. This is a 60 ml bottle, but for the equivalent 30 ml, which is the size of the original. Pardon is an amazing fragrance. If you want to smell absolutely awesome, and I've got a few compliments off this fragrance as well, so if you want to smell awesome and get some compliments through the autumn, then either of these two are a great choice. The last fragrance is from one of my favourite lines. It's the Tom Ford Private Blend. I think joint with Oud Wood, this is probably my favourite of the Private Blend line. Awesome for this time of year. It is Tuscan Leather. This has become a bit of a classic. In this one we've got prominent notes of leather, raspberry, jasmine. It's bold, it's dark, it's rich, it's complex, it's so intoxicating. I just close my eyes and it transports me to another place whenever I smell Tuscan Leather. If you've not smelt this DNA, it is just something that everybody should smell. The smell of this is one of the reasons that I went so hard into niche perfumery. And the company that started all that for me, the company that I smelt the clone of before I smelt this one, is one that is responsible for me having this channel and was the gateway for me getting into fragrances, and it's Perfume Parlor. Their version is, well, I've had this a while now. It was called Tuscan Leather, they've changed the name. I can't remember, Italian Rawhide, I think it's called. So Italian Rawhide is the Perfume Parlor version, and you know what, it just gets that DNA. It really does. Opening, there's a little bit of a difference. Does open a little more, perhaps oily, a little touch more chemically for the first 20 minutes or so, but that's when you're going in on skin. In the air, you know, there's not really a great deal of difference. The performance seems to match the original Tom Ford with this one. It's just an amazing composition. I think everyone should have some Tuscan leather. Prices, you're looking around 150 for a 50ml of the Tom Ford. For Perfume Parlour's equivalent 50ml, £12. Yeah, that's it's pretty good, isn't it? I've had a slight recent disappointment with Tuscan leather. I've been wearing this for the last few years, and my wife has never really mentioned anything about it. I know it's very typical for female partners to say they don't like Tuscan leather on their men, that they just think it's just too strong, maybe too complex a smell, it's perhaps not fresh enough. So whilst a lot of men love wearing it, their female partners generally, a lot of the time, don't like it. I'm not really sure what it is. So I thought I was getting away with it. I thought I was the man that was winning with Tuscan leather. I thought I was the only one. I wore this the other day, and the day after, my wife said, whatever fragrance you were wearing last night, I didn't like it.
Holding my breath, unraveling emotions. I need some space to think this through. Call me on that.
You know, I could have cried. I could have cried. Maybe her nose has just got used to fragrances and fragrance notes, and she can now distinguish better between them, since I've been wearing so many over the last few years. But yeah, she said she didn't like it. So unfortunately, I'm going to continue wearing Tuscan leather, and my wife will have to suffer. That's all there is to it. So, those are my top 5 cologne choices for autumn. If you want to smell great, if you want to smell niche and high quality at a really affordable price, all those 5 are great options. I've got to the end of the video, I realised I forgot to mention the prices of Aventus and Vanilla Intense from Parfums Vintage. I'll quickly tell you those. You're looking around 100ml of Aventus, it's around $265 in the UK, and the equivalent 100ml of Vanilla Intense is $135. So yeah, not cheap. Some people criticise Parfums Vintage for their prices, and yes, you may very well be able to get Aventus decants for a pretty similar price, but you will never find an Aventus decant that smells quite like Vanilla Intense with that pushed vanilla. So there we go, those are the prices. Let me know which your favourite clones are, particularly for this time of year. If you have found some clones that are fantastic and I maybe don't know about them, let me know. So leave some comments. I would love to discover some new ones. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you found it useful. Remember, keep tuning into FM and keep smelling good. Right, who's that person copying my channel? I'm not having anyone copying my work.